folks, thank you for tuning in. My name is Franco, and today we'll be talking about some of the residents here at the Valley Nature Center. So first off, what we'll be talking about the residents, they are reptiles. A couple things about reptiles here. First rule of thumb is all reptiles have scales. Now today you're going to get to see some of our companions here. You're going to see a couple of different types of scales. We'll have some smooth scales, and those are scales that are just like it sounds, just completely smooth. They give the reptile almost a wet feel to them. Other type of scales that we have here are the keeled scales, and we have one snake here that has that type of scales. Those have a little ridge in the middle, and you'll give us rough, bumpy texture, which we'll hopefully get to see. And last but not least, we'll also get to see some scoots, and that belongs really to one of our reptiles here, and I'm going to pop him out right now, the Texas tortoise. And you can see those scoots here, those big bumps along his legs. Now, as I said, this here is the Texas tortoise. They're native here to the valley, to South Texas. They are actually the smallest species of gopher tortoises in the United States. These guys roughly grow up to be at most 1 foot in length and can weigh anywhere roughly between 9 to maybe 10 pounds max. As you can see, I'm holding them with one hand. Now, you don't want to ever confuse a tortoise with a turtle. We do have a bunch of turtles here at the Valley Nature Center, especially in our pond. Unlike the turtles in our pond, Texas tortoises do not swim. The truth is, if you were to toss this guy with the pond with all the other ones, he'd sink to the bottom like a stone and drown. And that's also, you can tell by the design and shape of him. As you see, he has a dome-shaped shell, unlike the streamlined shells of a turtle. And his legs are more like tree trunks. They're little stubby legs, and that's to help him walk on land and push the debris in his way. That's why he has these real big bumpy scoots. Okay, since Texas tortoises don't like to be in the water, what they do, instead of drinking, they actually eat it. Now some of you may ask, how do turtles eat water? Well, these guys like to eat a specific plant that we have here in abundance, and it's called the cactus. Cactus is real great with fiber and holds a lot of water. So it's basically a superfood for these little guys. Another cool fact about Texas tortoises is that they're actually part of the endangered species, so they are protected by Texas state law. In other words, it's actually illegal to keep these guys as pets. It's illegal to pick them up off the ground, and it's extremely illegal to kill them. Now, Texas tortoises, the reason they're part of the endangered is because due to the population increase, we have more buildings being built. A lot of their habitat is being destroyed. And because of that, they're forced out of their homes and start searching for new places to live. Now, the dangerous part is when they start crossing the streets. These guys are extremely slow, and they're not afraid of the cars, so they'll just try to walk by. If you ever do see a Texas tortoise crossing the street, the best thing to do is to leave it alone. But if you do feel that you want to help out, you never want to pick up the tortoise. Most wild tortoises, unlike this one here who's been handled, when they get picked up, they do get scared, and they will release all the water inside of them. Once they do this, it is a self-defense mechanism, but once this is done, they are technically begin to dehydrate. So they will die from that. So the best thing if you do want to help out is all you want to do is push them from the back where they're going. You never want to put them where they were, because just like their shells, they're a little thick-headed, and they'll just turn around and go back to where they were trying to get to. All right, folks, so that's the Texas tortoise. Y'all can say bye-bye. The next reptile that I'll be showing you here today isn't native to Texas. It's not even native to the United States. She came all the way from the other side of the world, from Australia. So y'all give a little round of applause for the Australian blue-tongued skink. There you go. Nice, pretty little girl. Now, the Australian blue-tongued skink, a couple of facts. It can live anywhere between 15 to 18 years in captivity, and it can grow to about a max length of about 1.5 feet, and that is including this long, nice, pretty tail you see here. Now, one of the coolest features about the Australian blue-tongued skink, just like the name suggests, is that bright blue tongue that it has in its mouth. Let's see if we can get her to show that a bit. There we go, good girl. Now, the reason the skink has this tongue is for protection. It has evolved as an adaptation to protect it from the wild, from predators. As you can see, she is pretty big, but she has these stubby little legs and arms, so she's not really that fast, and I can put her in an open container because she's not a great climber. So that's where that tongue comes in play, to protect themselves, because they can't really run away. So the way it works is there's a couple of stages, and we'll pretend there's a bird attacking. the first thing the skink will do is flatten its body about half its size to make itself look wider, almost like how guys puff out their chest right before a fight. You know what I mean? And then it'll open its mouth big and wide and wave that blue tongue around. Now, in the wild, there's a general rule when it comes to reptiles. If it has bright colors like blue, yellow, orange, or red, it usually means that it's venomous. It's there, it's supposed to be visible. It's a big alert. Now, so when this skink is flashing its blue tongue, it's basically telling the other animals, hey buddy, back up, because if I bite you once, just once, that's it, it's game over. But I like to call her my little actor, my little DiCaprio, because that's not true. She can bite me 100 times, and it would hurt because she does have these really strong, powerful jaws, but I'd be okay because she's not venomous. Now, most other animals don't know that. So once again, with that bird scenario, when she has that mouth open and starts waving that tongue, once the bird sees this blue tongue of hers, they don't want to take the risk of that one bite if it will kill them. So most of the time, they will leave her alone. Now, another cool thing about the skink here is they pretty much eat almost everything. These reptiles are known as omnivores. In other words, they eat both plants and meat. Now, in the wild, there have been cases where they found them eating random various plants, worms, cockroaches, crickets, but they really do like to eat mice, meat, baby mice to be exact. That's where they get most of their protein from. Now, these, like I said, they pretty much eat anything. They'll even eat people food as well, especially at this size. So if you guys don't like your mom's cooking, like the vegetables or the broccoli, this is the pet you want. Or if you love pizza but don't like the pizza crust, these guys love that stuff. Now, another cool feature, last one that I'll talk about when it comes to the skink, is you don't want to confuse these with lizards, even though they do look very similar. The main difference is right here on the sides. You'll see these little slits on each side of her head. Those are not gills. Believe it or not, those are actually her ear canals. So just like us humans, she can hear using air vibration or the vibrations in the air. All right, little girl, that'll be it. Say bye-bye. Okay. So next up with our companions here will be the snakes. The first snake I'll be showing you is really dangerous, so I'm going to be careful with it. Highly venomous, and it's the rattlesnake. No, just kidding. We don't have those here in the nature center. But the reason I want to show this snake here is because the first snake, actual snake that I'll be showing you, looks kind of similar to the rattlesnake. And there's a really good reason for that. And her name is the bull snake. Come on. There you go. You're okay. All right. You're okay. Now, this here's a bull snake. They can live anywhere between 15 to 20 years in captivity and can reach like about 7 feet long. Now, are you okay, girl? Okay. So, a couple other facts about the bull snake here. As I said, it does look like the rattlesnake that I have down here, and that's because it serves as protection. A lot of the snakes here in the valley, their number one goal is to help protect themselves, is to look like this guy right here. And this snake does it with several different ways. First are the scales, the patterns that you see on its back. You'll notice these large dark spots and these little white bands crisscrossing through, almost like the diamondback pattern of the rattlesnake. If you look at the tip of the tail, you notice that pattern changes to stripes. And that's because if you notice here in our model as well, this rattlesnake also has stripes. Also, another thing that you can visibly see is that black tongue. The bull snakes are one of the few also snakes that have a black tongue, just like the rattlesnake, and they will flick like that as well. And when this snake becomes threatened and in a hostile environment, it will begin to do a threat display. And what it does, first it'll go into an S-striking position. It'll start vibrating and shaking the tip of its tail to mimic the rattle movement of a rattlesnake, and it'll begin to hiss extremely loud. Now, when a bull snake is fully grown, its hiss is so loud that you can hear it from 20 feet away. Now, this snake is non-venomous, and one of the easiest ways to tell is by the shape of the head. Most non-venomous snakes have their head mimics the shape of their body. As you notice here, it's not that much fatter or wider. Unlike the rattlesnake, whose head is in a triangular shape, and that's because it has the venom glands in the back. Now, The bull snake, though, knows this, and what it'll do to help mimic the rattlesnake, it'll actually flatten its head. It'll flatten the back part of its head to mimic that triangular shape of a rattlesnake. So these guys are really good at mimicking them, and that's because, once again, the rattlesnakes are highly venomous and dangerous. Most would actually consider it maybe a top-tier predator. Here. Sorry. Yeah. So the way the bull snake here hunts, it loves to eat rodents. It usually lives around barns and farms, and that's because it likes to eat the rats that live there. It is known as a constrictor. In other words, it'll use its body's muscles to wrap and squeeze the life out of its prey before swallowing it whole. Now, if you may notice, snakes here do not have hands or arms, so they can't use knives or forks to cut their food like we do. So they eat food a little bit smaller than their neck, and that's because they need to swallow it whole. If the food's too big, they can probably choke on it and die from it. Okay. Now, farmers do love having these guys around because, like I say, they eat mostly rodents. They're actually what I like to call active game hunters. So most snakes, they only hunt food when they're hungry. They don't like to attack when they're not provoked. This snake here actually likes to hunt rodents for fun. You can probably, if you ever had a rodent problem, if you release one of these guys, within a week, you won't have that problem anymore. And that's because they just, if they sense a rat or a rodent anywhere, they will hunt it down. All right, folks, so that's the bull snake. Let me put you back. There we go. Oop. Hold it on a bit. The next snake I'll be showing you is another famous constrictor. You've probably seen these at pet stores. You probably have an uncle or a cousin that has one of them, and it's called the ball python. It's this little guy right here. Ball pythons are considered to be the second best pet snakes, and that's because they're extremely docile. It really takes a lot for these guys to want to bite you. Now, the reason they're called ball python is because in the wild, when these guys are being attacked, what they like to do is they like to coil their bodies up into a ball formation and place their head in the middle of that ball to protect their face from any danger. Now, the fun fact about that is whenever they're in that ball shape, you can actually pick them up and roll them like a bowling ball. We don't recommend you do that because you will be harming the snake, but we're just saying you could because that's how tightly wounded this snake becomes. Another name that this snake was given was called the alien snake or alien python, and that's because if you look at its patterns, let me try to find one. There we go. If you look at its patterns like right here, you notice this big green loop with two little black dots, and she might have another one somewhere around. And it's supposed to mimic those old school green big-headed aliens. So sometimes in the pet world, some people might call these the alien snake instead. My favorite name, though, is called the royal python. And that is because that name was given to them back in the day when there was kings and queens in Asia and Africa. They would actually use this snake as jewelry. They would coil it around their wrist and walk around, the store and say, "Hey, this is my new bracelet." Another way they wear it would be around their neck, like so. Y'all like my new Gucci? Now, the reason they were able to wear this snake as jewelry was because, just like I said, these guys are constrictors. They will use their body to squeeze. Oh, it's actually squeezing a bit right now. Now, unlike the bull snake, though, you notice that this snake is a lot fatter. It's a lot thicker, so it has a lot more muscle to squeeze. You can actually feel when it starts to tighten around you. Another cool fact about the ball python is if you look at its mouth, all along the top of its mouth, you notice these little red holes, these little red dots. Now, those are a special organ that they have known as a heat pit, and they allow this snake to see in the dark using thermal vision. For those of you who don't know what thermal vision is, that is basically, it allows the snake to see the difference in temperature with color. A quick example is go ahead and touch your arms. You can rub them around, and you'll feel that you're nice and warm. Now go ahead and touch something other than your body, a counter, table, or whatnot. You'll notice that that table or whatever you're touching is a bit colder than your arm. Now this snake here can see the slightest difference of temperature with color. So my arm, which is nice and warm, this snake would probably see from a yellow to an orange or red. And the surrounding around me, which is cooler, would see from a light to a dark blue. So at night in the forest, this snake likes to hang out on the top of the trees like so and look at the forest floor, which would be dark blue. and out of the sudden, it'll see this little red dot, which usually happens to be the mice or rats that run around at night. And this snake will easily spot them and pick them up straight off the ground. Another cool feature about the python, and this also goes for boas, is they have the ability to unhinge their bottom jaw. What does that mean? So, like I said with the bull snake and other snakes, they don't eat food a little bit smaller than their neck because they can choke. This snake here doesn't follow that rule. It can actually eat food 3 times the size of its body, and that's all thanks to that jaw that can unhinge. So what it does is, instead of opening its mouth like us or other animals up and down, it'll actually open its mouth in a triangular shape so it can try to fit more. And not only will it open in a triangular shape, but because of those muscles in its jaw and those unhinged bones, it'll use those bones as fingers, appendages, to help move the food down. Now the ball python here, believe it or not, is also one of the smallest species, or actually is the smallest species of pythons in the world. These guys will only grow to a max length of 6 feet, and they can live anywhere between 15 to 20 pounds in captivity. Now I know 6 feet might sound pretty long, but like I said, the bull snake can grow up to 7 feet, and there's another species of python known as the reticulated python that can grow anywhere between 16 to 19 feet in length. So these guys are tiny compared to them. All right, folks, so that's a python. Y'all can say bye-bye. Oh, she's holding on. Okay, no, stay. Thank you. All right, the last snake I'll be showing you today is what people would consider the #1 pet snake, and it's called the corn snake. Now, these guys are native here to Texas. You can actually find corn snakes pretty much almost anywhere in the Northern America. And a couple facts about these guys: they can grow anywhere between up to 3 feet long and can live anywhere between 15 to 20 years in captivity as well. Now, the way the corn snake got its name is back in the day when there was Native Americans and settlers. The Native Americans used to grow miles and miles of cornfield because that was pretty easy to grow. Now, one day, one of the Native Americans noticed this snake living in their fields eating the mice. So like any true detective, he was like, let me go pick up that snake. So when he picked up the snake, one of the first things that he noticed was this beautiful checkered pattern that you see here, where it's light, dark, light, dark. Now, the Native Americans used to grow a special corn called Indian corn or wild corn. You don't normally see this type of corn unless it's Thanksgiving time. But the really cool thing about it was that the corn kernels looked almost exactly like this belly, where they were light, dark, light, dark. So the Native American, when seeing this, decided, well, it lives in our fields eating the mice, and it kind of looks like the corn we grow. So how about we give it a super easy, duper name to remember and call it the corn snake? And that's where these guys got their name. Now, like I was saying, these guys are considered to be the #1 pet snake, and for that reason, whenever you look at a corn snake in pet stores, you normally see them in either full-on yellow. You might even see some exotics like solid reds, whites, or blacks. But in the wild, what you would normally see is this kind of pattern here, where you see some light scales with some dark splotches and a couple of mixed match. And that's because they mimic their background, their surroundings. So here in the valley, you would normally see grays, dark grays, maybe a little bit of darks, because that's supposed to mimic, they want to mimic the dirt. This corn snake here in particular might have come from up north, where there's a little bit more trees and wood, and it has that brownish tone. Okay. Oh, hello, bye. So yeah, the corn snake, folks. Thank you. All right, everyone. So just like I said, these are just a few of the animals that reside here in the Valley Nature Center. My name is Franco Salinas. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to us either on our Facebook or YouTube page, or come in person when we are open to see all the other residents that we have. Thanks for tuning in.